well, I shouldn't say most important, because triumphal entry is important. But one of the most important parts of, of the Gospel of John. And it also appears in another gospel as well. And that's Mary anointing Jesus. And I can't skip that. It's way too important. It says so much about, not only about Jesus, but also about Mary. So we will do that using the insert. I will give you the questions because there are one or two questions on the test that concern that story. So I will give you those before the test. I won't lecture on it until after the test. The test, your unit test, is next Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday the 23rd, a week from yesterday. So we will do that. But obviously, this is what we're about to talk about happens after Christ raised Lazarus from the dead. We don't know exactly how long it was between the raising of Lazarus and the triumphal entry. Palm Sunday is what we call it. But it wasn't more than a couple of months. It was less than 3 months time. So it's a pretty short time. So when the people who weren't as impressed with a man rising from the dead went to the Jewish leadership and said, "Hey, he's in Bethany. If you want to, arrest him," they go and report him. I don't know how that's what you get out of a dead man coming to life, but that was their reaction. That's how much they were against Jesus, and so. So this, what we're going to talk about, the Triumphal Entry, is Palm Sunday before Good Friday. And so now we're at less than a week in Jesus' life. And we are in chapter 12, and there are 21 chapters in John. So the last week of Jesus' life comprises almost half of the book of John. And most of that comprises the last 24, 48 hours of his life. So this is really important stuff. So let's talk about Caiaphas. And we're going to read these verses a little bit at a time. So it begins, it starts where the last lesson ended, with people running to the Pharisees to tell them that Lazarus had been raised from the dead by Jesus. And so the Sadducees become concerned about Jesus, and they're going to become concerned about Lazarus as well. And so here are the verses. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to and so that dichotomy is like that they didn't believe. Some believed, some didn't. And the ones who didn't believe, some of them, went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs." The signs means miracles. I like that word signs, though, because what does a sign do? Yeah.
It points you in a direction or says, "Hey, there's a hole right here, don't step in it."
Right. It's telling you something's ahead, right? Whether that's good or bad. And so these miracles were signs of who Jesus is. They were signs telling everyone who Jesus is. Now, not everyone believes, but that's the purpose of the signs. These were written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you might have life in his name. If we let him, that's worse than you. So if we let him go on like this, if we allow him to live, in other words, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. They're worried that Jesus is going to cause Rome to come down hard on the Jews. Now, it talks here about the Sadducees. So let's talk a little bit about the Sadducees. The Sadducees, think of like a political party. I think I told you that before. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, kind of like a political party. Republicans, Democrats, just for religion. And the Sadducees actually made up the majority of the Sanhedrin. More members of the Sanhedrin were Sadducees than there were Pharisees. But they weren't as influential. So the reason why we always hear about the Pharisees and not the Sadducees is because the Sadducees weren't as influential as the Pharisees. Yes.
Kind of like a doctrinal difference.
The primary doctrinal difference between the two is that the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection of the dead. They didn't believe in a time when everyone would rise from the dead, and the Pharisees did believe that. So yeah, that was the primary difference. By the way, when we were in college, we sang the stupidest Christian song ever, called "I Just Want to Be a Sheep." You've heard it? Have you really? Yeah, that's great. Do you sing well? Because I don't. And I don't. I just want to be a sheep. How
do you make that sound good?
I just want to be a sheep. I just want to be a sheep. That's it. Right?
You got your baz down.
I don't want to be a Pharisee. I don't want to be a Pharisee because they're not fair, you see. I just want to be a sheep. One word. I don't want to be a Sadducee. I don't want to be a Sadducee because they're so sad, you see. I just want to be a sheep. And every time I talk about the Sadducees, that stupid song runs through my mind. It's just so bad. And it's back from like 1979 or 80.
I see what you mean about
we sang that in our Christos, in our
I remember
our college
seeing that for like summer Sunday school.
I see what you mean about
so anyway,
Terrifying.
but they couldn't, and you can tell from this, they couldn't deny the miracles of Christ. How are we going to get rid of this? He's doing so many miracles, and he's so popular, and the people love him. And now they have Lazarus as living proof of the power of Jesus. And so Jesus was growing in popularity. The public opinion was in Christ's favor. And so they were worried about the possibility of another revolution. It happened before when other empires had come down on, and even the Romans had come down on the Jews, and they had a revolt on their hands. The Roman government had a revolt on their hands, and so their concern. This is not what this, but their concern was that the Roman government would step in and crush them, crush the Jews. It was bad enough being ruled by the Jews, but the Romans could have made it very much worse, and that had happened before, so they realized that. So, because of all this, one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all. Nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish." So this is Caiaphas's unwitting prophecy. So he proposes killing Jesus to save the nation. So Caiaphas became high priest in AD 18, and he'd been a witness to Christ's ministry from the very beginning. He'd seen all of it, and he determined that Jesus had to die. Jesus had to be eliminated for the sake of the country. He had to be eliminated. So Caiaphas proposes killing Jesus to save the nation from the wrath of the Romans. that have happened? Maybe. But maybe it would have happened, and certainly Caiaphas believed it would. He probably had other reasons for wanting Jesus dead. But if the people would have revolted and made Jesus their king, that would have brought some sort of response from Rome. So, do you see any irony in what Caiaphas says? It's better that one man die for the people than the whole country die. Yeah.
They're trying to get rid of Jesus and defy his plan, but it's exactly what Jesus wants it to happen in the first place.
Yeah, Jesus, they're not going to kill Jesus. Jesus is going to give up his life. Jesus said, "Nobody takes my life from me. I willingly lay it down." Jesus laid down his life. It wasn't taken from him. He could have, people mocked him on the cross and said, he healed all these people. Why can't he heal himself? Why can't he come down from the cross? Could he have done that?
Oh yeah.
He had the power to choose. Yeah.
Like if Jesus hadn't put on the cross, they wouldn't even be. They have this idea because
Exactly. It was God's plan from the very beginning. There's a lot of times when the logical thing to do is wrong, and the illogical thing to do is right. God's ways are not always our ways. We don't always understand what He's doing. I might even say we often don't understand what He's doing. And we have to be careful about following our own logic, because our logic is sometimes flawed and we don't even know it. I'm going to talk about a few things, and this isn't logical, right? I mean, what Caiaphas says is logical to them, right? But it's wrong. And Jesus giving up his life isn't logical, right? But there are other things, other stories. Can anybody think of a story in the Bible that was logical, but it was wrong? Yeah.
It gives me away because God. So basically, just thrown in the well because it was more of a logical decision. Like obviously, these people might literally slaughter you. It's not safe.
Yeah.
When God told the Israelites not to loot that one city that they destroyed, and the Israelites did it anyway. It was wrong.
I mean, it was theirs for the taking. Why wouldn't they do that? That's what everybody did. So everybody's doing it, right? Quite literally in that case. What about Abraham? Abraham came up with this great idea. God promised him a son, and the son didn't come. So he had this fabulous idea. Girls, tell me if any of you would sign up for this. He goes to Sarah and says, I tell you what, I'm going to take your servant. I'm going to have a baby with her.
Oh no.
And then God will fulfill that promise. Yeah, that for every woman in the room, that is not logical, right? But in worldly thinking, yeah, he got a son. Wrong son, right? So it wasn't really all that logical. Lot was Abraham's nephew, and Lot's people and Abraham's people began to kind of get in skirmishes with one another. So Abraham goes to Lot. This is a better Abraham. This is a better choice, maybe. And Abraham says, look, you and I are brothers, and so we shouldn't be fighting against each other. Look at the whole land that I own. And you choose. If you like the land over there, you and your people can go there, and we'll leave you alone. If you like the land over there, then you and your people can go there, and we'll go the other way. And so Lot looks out, and he looks at this side, and he goes, "That's really cool. That's a great place to live." count so much. I'm going to go that way. Logical. Okay, remember what else is there? Sodom and Gomorrah. Didn't work out real well for Lot, especially for his wife.
Whole thing
right?
went up in flames.
But it was the logical thing.
Out of
Take
the
the
frying
good one.
pan into the fire.
But it wasn't right.
Must have been salty about that one.
David going into battle, and before he goes into battle, he decides to count. He knows about how many of the enemy there are, so he counts his own. Like, do I have enough people? And that's logical in the world's thinking. But actually, it was a lack of faith in God. And he's forgotten. You don't have to be the biggest in this room. You just have to have God on your side. So it was logical, but it was wrong. Yeah.
Isn't the example like Solomon or Saul? I forget. It's like he ended up offering sacrifices on his own instead of like letting the priest do it because he thought that he pleased God that way.
Yeah, I think that was David. David made a number of gaps.
It was another guy. Like, yeah, Saul.
Yeah, that was like
Saul.
Saul, yeah.
Yeah, Saul. It
I
was
like the
Saul.
big
You're
thing
right.
he
It
messed
was
up.
Saul. It was Saul. And then Philip and the feeding of the 5,000. This is all we got. We got a boys' lunch. That's all we got. Nothing's going to happen with this lunch, which is logical. I mean, you wouldn't. If I came in here with a peanut butter sandwich and said, "Let's all have lunch," this is what we've got. Like, we can't have lunch.
One person.
One person can, but we can't all, right? And that's true.
I will become the first person
Yes,
to slaughter peanut butter
let's talk, because that's the next thing. Yes.
Abraham, and God was telling him to slaughter his own son. Right?
He did not
That's
want
one
to
of
do
the ones
that.
on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is illogical. I mean, there are times when I was mad at my children, but there's never, I would never, no, not
A
that.
lot on the
Yeah.
table there.
But it was the right thing to do. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna eat.
Yeah.
My logical is probably like you just write it.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Here, how do you think this went for Joshua? Okay. Here's our battle plan. We're gonna walk, and then we're gonna blow some trumpets, and we're gonna shout, and then we're gonna win. Why do we have these weapons? Why do we have? That's a fortified city. We're a bunch of people. What? We're sitting ducks. But the VeggieTales got it right. Keep walking, because you won't knock down our wall. Well, yes, we will. Yeah, it's illogical.
Yeah, today actually goes through these in the
Noah built the ark
I keep that title.
nowhere near any water. It had never even rained. So when he said it's going to rain, the people were like, "What's that?"
Is there even like
What
a
is this?
And of course, I mean, they like made fun of him. Like, what are you doing? God told me to. Oh yeah, right. That's a great one. I've heard that one before. No, God didn't tell you that. Yes.
Sorry, or like, I don't know if it was Elijah or Elisha, but one of them, God told him, just go to this woman and her son who went up last day alive and was like, tell them to feed me.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
like a whole
Remember which one it was? I think it was Esther when she went to the king. Right? Yeah,
She was
yeah.
like, I'm a Jew.
At the cost of possibly the cost of her life. She would have to go unasked. Yes.
The guy who was thrown on the bones of either Elijah or Elisha.
Yeah, it's tough to know.
Like, why would you throw a person, dead person's bones?
Yeah. So all of those were illogical, but they weren't right. So Caiaphas' pronouncement that one man should die for the people, so that all of them could live, seemed logical, but it was wrong. But at the same time, God used Caiaphas' logic to accomplish his. Caiaphas wasn't in charge of any of this. he thought he was. But God was in charge of all of it. So if he's using the philosophy that end justifies the means. Do you understand? Do you know what this means?
Machiavellian.
It's yeah. So if the end is good, however you get there doesn't matter. If it's a good ending, then it doesn't matter how you get there because the ending is good. That's not right. Right? So hey, I end up with 100% if I cheat. The end justifies the means.
No.
Oh yeah, here we go. You got better ones anyway. Caiaphas makes this unwitting prophecy, but he didn't know how true his words were. Okay. So he did not say this of his own accord. So this is Caiaphas' prophecy. It's better that one man die for the people. He did not say this on his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So from that day on, they made plans to put Jesus to death. So God put those words in his mouth. God knew that what he was saying was true, just not in the way that he thought. Okay, so then Jesus' last retreat from public view. So from that day on, they made plans to put Jesus to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, it was near. And many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know so that they might arrest him. So Jesus knows what's about to happen. He knows he's going to Jerusalem to die. And he spends some time in Ephraim and before that. So it's just, it's north and a little bit east of Jerusalem. And as people walked to Jerusalem, he probably saw them because he didn't show up until later. He probably watched those people going to Jerusalem. I wonder, that'd be interesting to know, because he did that. Then we move on to chapter 12. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. When the large crowd of the Jews learned that Jesus was there, they came not only on account of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of him, many of the Jews were going away and believing in Jesus because of that miracle. Okay. So the crowds, let's move down to this. The crowds want to see both Jesus and Lazarus. And they were curious about him. And so 6 days before the Passover, Jesus arrived at Bethany. And he probably stayed at the home of Lazarus and Mary and Martha. That's where he usually stayed. And word soon spread that he was there. And so many people arrived at Jerusalem for the Passover and heard that he was in Bethany, and they came to see him there. They wanted to see him. But the Pharisees was there too, and they ramped up their efforts to kill Jesus. In our country, we don't really have a lot of persecution. If you're a Christian, there's little things. But in lots of places, it's life-threatening to be a follower of Christ. The man that we talked about that trusted Christ the day before he died, had he lived in Christ, that would have been okay in a Muslim country. And there are many places where it is costly. We're very blessed in our nation. So Lazarus was willing to associate with Jesus, that the Pharisees wanted to kill him, wanted to kill Jesus. Lazarus. It makes you wonder. That's a serious thought. On that, we'll stop for today. Triumphal Entry.
Should I?
Yes.
All right.
Just